Hey, it's Dreadwas here, coming to you live from makemoreplacements.com. I just wanted to share with you a training that we've built out for some of our clients recently, and I thought you might find it useful. So basically, we were talking about how COVID-19 has changed selling for, especially for perm recruitment and search business owners, but, really across the board, and really looking at what needs to shift, what needs to be fixed, right? So, by the way, if you're listening on Facebook and you can hear me okay, just give me a like so I know everything is working fine. But yeah, right. So if you're a recruitment and search business owner and you sell recruitment, again, I'm sure that without me telling you, you know that the sales environment has shifted from where it was 2-3 weeks ago. What's happened is, and again, this is a training that was relevant before, but it's become more and more important. What's happened is your hiring managers in your market have a different attitude towards recruitment and search services. There's sort of a few big shifts that we've noticed, and it happened after the last recession, but it's happening now as well, and it's probably going to continue for some time, right? So if there's one word that I could use to describe what's going on right now, it's uncertainty. Right, so your hiring managers are uncertain about what's happening in the future. When people are uncertain, they typically find it difficult to move forward. So what we've got is this big, what I call spending reluctance. So people are, even if people have a need for what you do still, they're more cautious. They're reluctant to spend money. Right, so we've got that sort of. If you're selling recruitment, you've got that working against you now, where it perhaps wasn't a couple of weeks ago. And again, this is sort of relevant for during 19, but it's going to be relevant for a while afterwards as well, I believe. Because of spending reluctance, we've got what we also call price pressure. So in many cases, some of our clients are feeling that they have to lower their fees in order to win business or in order to get the prospect to move forward with things, right? So we've got this price pressure as well. And, it goes without saying, if you lower your fees, it's going to have an impact on your profits, right? What we've also got as well is increased competition. So again, if you've been on LinkedIn, what you'll see is a lot of the big firms are cutting back, letting some of their consultants go, and even some of the smaller firms are as well. But what's also happening is a lot of recruitment and search owners are not hiring either, right? So whereas before those consultants who got released were going get a new job, they find that it's more difficult for them to get work, so they're more inclined to start a business and become even more competition. So I mean, before, when people are hiring, they'd always sort of cling on to the reason they're not starting the business is this job security or perceived job security. When that's gone, a lot of them will go out and start a business and create even more competition, right? So the environment's changed, which has put more emphasis on how you sell recruitment. If you're selling it in some of the ways I'm going to go over in a minute, it's going to cause problems for you, but there's a shift that you need to make, right? So there's, again, on perm recruitment, there's two typical models that people follow. One is contingency, where, you've got the prospect here, and the prospect is working with multiple recruiters who are trying to fill that same role. And, from day one, you're competing with a lot of other people in your market. And what I'm saying is that that's going to expand, right? So when that expands, you're competing with more people, which means you're going to have lower fill rates. So I don't know what your fill rate is at the moment, but if you look at it in percentage terms, if you work on, from the people that we speak to, I say the average is about 3 in 10. So if you're working on 10 job orders, you only fill 3 of them. What we're finding is that's going to sort of, because there's more competition, that's going to go down, right? Which is obviously going to have an impact on your business revenue and profits. So a model that you need to shift to, and again, this is relevant now, it's relevant in the future, but it's also relevant before as well, is what we call the partnership model, where rather than competing with multiple recruiters for the same role, you work in partnership with the client, just you working on that role. So on either, typically a retained or an exclusive basis, where, it's just you working on the role. You've partnered with the client. If you're still using this way, you're going to become a very, very quickly. If you're using this way, sorry, not my camera there, using this way, you remove yourself from becoming a commodity, you become a partner and an expert, and you become, this is almost like the hired help. This is like the paid expert, right? So your fill rate goes up. You can also charge higher fees when you do it this way as well, right? So that's the sort of shift we're taking our clients through. Again, it was important before, but it's even more important now. Also, the other thing that's a big shift that we want to talk about is whether we're talking about during COVID-19 or afterwards, right? During COVID-19, I read somewhere the other day that half the world's in lockdown, which means that before, where if you were selling to a client, you might go to their office or invite them to your office or meet them somewhere, but you meet face-to-face. When you're selling face-to-face, we have a colleague called Simon Bowen who calls this the proximity model. When you're in close proximity with the prospect, what you say during the sales presentation is important, but what sort of overshadows that is your personality, your connection with the prospect. We're now moving to a more virtual model. So obviously, if the world's in lockdown, we can't meet the prospect face-to-face. But also, I think that beyond this, if we look even after COVID-19 is done, we come through the other side, I think social distancing as a general practice is going to go on for a while, right? I think even when we're allowed to sort of go and meet prospects, I think as a practice, I think the government will advise us against it until it's, for another at least 18 months. And I think during that time, and it's even happening now, attitudes towards face-to-face meetings will change, and people who were previously in a school of thought where, we have to meet prospects face-to-face or we have to meet people we're buying from face-to-face, their attitudes would have shifted over that time. And it'll almost become, well, what's the point? Why do we need to meet face-to-face? Let's do it over the phone or let's do it virtually, which means we lose this proximity power, right? We're no longer in the room with the prospect. We're now sort of either doing it on the phone or virtually. And when you move from being in the room with the prospect to doing it virtually, the importance of what you say in the presentation becomes more important because you can't sort of fall back on your personality, right? So what we've been doing with clients is we've been helping them structure their sales process. So for each stage, what they say at the beginning, middle, and end of the call, with the emphasis on getting the winning the business on either retained or exclusive terms. So retained where you either get paid up front, or exclusive where you're just working, it's only you working with the prospect and you're not competing with multiple recruiters. So again, just want to share with you what we're doing with clients at the moment, and something that you may want to think about going forward. Listen, if you want help with this, you can go to makemoreplacements.com/apply. That's makemoreplacements.com/apply. We can have a quick conversation, see if this will work in your business. I'll even give you this workbook as well, so you can go away and see if you can get it to work for you. Speak to you soon. Until then, take care, take action, and be relentless.